I'm Henry. Welcome to JS for Everyone. Today we are going to learn about variables in JavaScript. Variables are an important topic in any language. Why? Because if you want to store any value, variables are the go-to option. Okay, so this video is a part of a playlist which I have created to learn about JavaScript, which starts from very basics. So I have provided the link in the description. Go through the playlist so that you can know more about JavaScript. Okay, let's get started. What are we going to learn in this video? We are going to learn about what are variables, what are the different types of data types in JavaScript, and also we are going to learn about an operator called typeof operator, which enable you to find the type of variable during runtime. What are variables? Variables are the one which allows you to hold values. Why do you want to hold a value? So you can hold a value to use it in the later part of your code, or you can hold a value to manipulate it. So here we have an example where I am declaring a variable and defining it called 1, which holds type 1 of number. So during execution I am reassigning 1 to string of 1. So this kind of thing is possible in JavaScript. If you have watched the video called What is JavaScript in my playlist, I have said that JavaScript is a weakly typed language, which means that whenever you are assigning a value to a variable, you do not give the data type to the variable. Implicitly the interpreter will understand the data type based on the value which you provide. So even here I have provided 1 as a type number initially, but later during execution I am changing it to 1 of type string. That is not possible in any other strongly typed language, but JavaScript is somewhat special here because it's a weakly typed language. Cool. So that's pretty awesome, right? If you want to learn more about the characteristics of JavaScript, please go through the What is JavaScript video, which I have provided in the description, the link of it. Go through it so that you can understand what are the different characteristics of JavaScript. JavaScript is one of the most fun language because it has a lot of weird different characteristics to it, which is not there in other traditional languages. Cool. So let's come back to the topic again. What are variables? So simply variables are the one which holds a value so that you can manipulate it or use it later in your code. So what are different data types in JavaScript? Majorly JavaScript is divided into 2 data types. One is primitive, another one is non-primitive. Inside primitive data types we have 5 different data types. One is number, string, boolean, null and undefined. So basically if you are creating a primitive value, which means that is immutable, which means you cannot change the value. For inside primitive, if you notice, there are 2 different things which are called null and undefined. Initially people believes that both are same, but that is not same. Undefined means you declared a variable but you didn't define it, which means that you are not initializing any value to it. So that particular the value of that variable will be undefined. So what is null then? So where null is used. So when JavaScript will not assign a null value to any of the variable, you have to do it programmatically. Some of the scenarios or use case you might want to assign a value of a variable to null. Okay, so basically you have to understand one thing is that null and undefined are not same, and one more thing is that if you say type of null, it will return you object, which is completely wrong because that was a mistake in the initial stages of JavaScript where the original implementation was wrong. So basically null and undefined are not same, and null is not an object. Coming back to non-primitive data types, there are 2. One is objects and arrays. So arrays are type of objects, but it's slightly different because it is iterable, which means that you can iterate through the array. You can also iterate through an object but in a different way. Okay, so now you know what are the different types of data types in JavaScript. One is primitive and non-primitive. Inside primitive you have number, string, boolean, null and undefined, and inside non-primitive you have objects and arrays. Now we are going to see an important topic called constant let. There is something called block level scope in JavaScript, which was not there till ES5. So what is a block level scope? Before that, we have to understand what are the different scopes in JavaScript. I'll be going deeper into scopes in a different video, but for now just understand that there are 3 different scopes in JavaScript. One is global scope, function scope and block level scope. So this particular block level scope was not there in ES5. So when you say function level scope, so if you are defining and declaring a variable inside a function, once the function execution is over, that particular variable will be garbage collected, which means that will be removed from the memory. Okay, so then what is block level scope? Inside a function, you might have different blocks. You might have different if conditions, you might have different for loops. So if you are defining and declaring a variable inside a if block, and if we are not using it outside the block, then that particular variable will be there in memory until that particular function execution is over. That is kind of wrong, right? You don't want that variable to be in memory once that block is executed. So that's why blocking scope is introduced in ES6, where once the block is executed, that particular variable will be removed from memory. So using constant let, you can create a block level scope. If you're using var, it will be still a function level variable, but if you're using constant let inside if condition, you can create a block level scope. So okay, again inside constant let, what is the difference between constant let? So if you are using const, which means that you cannot reassign the reference of the variable, which means that you are not going to reassign a value to it. For example, I say const name is equal to Henry. I cannot change that Henry to something else during my execution. It will throw you an error. If you're using let, you can reassign it. That's the basic difference. For a better coding standard and for better performance, always stick with const. And if you want to change the reference of the variable, then go for let. Cool. Now you have understood what is constant let and what is block level scope. We will be learning about scopes deeper in a separate video. The final one which we are going to learn about is typeof operator. So as I have said, there are different data types in JavaScript, right? So how do you find the type of the variable during execution? The answer to it is typeof operator. Okay, now we have a small example here where I have const city is equal to Bengaluru. Okay, during execution I want to find what is the data type of the variable city. I can just simply say type of city. It will give you string, because city is a primitive data type, so it will return you string. Okay, what is again I have a different variable called number 10. So when you say type of num, it will return you number. The same way for boolean as well, where I say const is valid as true, type of is valid will be boolean. So now you have theoretically understood what are variables, what are different data types, and what is type of operator. Now in the second part of this video, we are going to do the hands-on. So be ready with your laptop. Don't just watch, because just watching this video will not give you a better grip on the concepts. You have to do it in order to become mastering in every concepts. Okay, so be ready with your laptop, open your editor, go through the videos which I have posted already in my channel, because those videos gives you an understanding how to set up your environment and how to know what are different tools in JavaScript which supports you to code in JavaScript. So go through those videos in the playlist if you haven't gone through it. Let's go to the second part of the video. So in this part of video, we are going to do a hands-on on creating variables and different types of variables and finding out the data type of a variable during execution. So I have already created a small setup using npm and babel. So using that setup, I'm going to do the hands-on. If you haven't did the setup in your local, please go through the videos in the playlist so that you can do your setup in your local. So now I'm going to create a small function called print. So inside this particular print function, I'm going to write my logics. So first I'm going to create a variable called city which holds the value Bengaluru. Okay, so let's console log the type of city. Now let's execute it in our browser. So now the type of city is string. Cool. In the next part, I am going to create a different variable called num, which holds value of type of number 1000. Okay, so num for a change, what I'm going to do is, instead of now creating num as const, I'm going to create it as let, and during execution I'm changing let to 500. So as I have said, theoretically that constant let, there's a difference where using const you cannot reassign a value to a variable, which is reassigning a reference of a value is not possible in const, but here reassigning is possible in let. So if you want to reassign a variable, then you can use number let, but if you don't want to reassign a value, then you should always stick with const. So let's execute it. Now if you see, the type of num is number. Okay, so let's move on to boolean. Let's execute this. Now if you see, type of city is string, number, num is number, and is valued as boolean. Cool. So these are all three primitive data types. Now there is a small thing called object wrapper for these primitive data types. So those are called string constructor, number constructor, and boolean constructor. Basically you can create these primitive data types in two different ways. One is using string literal, or the second one is like string constructor. Now let's create the city variable using string constructor. So let's find out what is the difference between creating using string literal and creating using string constructor. There is a no difference between these two, so let's figure it out. So when I say string constructor, you have to use new operator in order to create an object out of a constructor. So what I'm doing is like const city is equal to new of string Bengaluru. Correct. So now let's rerun the code again in the browser. If you see, previously it was string. Okay, the string literal was string. But now when you do it using string constructor, it is object. So that's a major difference when you create a string using a constructor and using a literal. So similarly, if you're creating a number using number constructor, then this is the same result. It will return you an object. If you're creating a boolean using boolean constructor, it will return you an object. But if you directly assign a value with like const is valid is equal to true, it will return you boolean. We have learned about what are variables and how to declare and define a variable, what is a block level scope, what is type of operator, and I believe that you have a clear understanding of variables now in JavaScript. If you still have any doubt in variables, please comment it in the comment section below. I'll be replying to this comment pretty much instantly, and also if you really like the video, give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Near the subscribe button there will be a bell icon, so please click on that bell icon so that every time when I create and publish a new video, you'll get a notification so that you don't miss any of my content. Cool. That's it guys, thanks a lot for watching. See you guys on the next video. Bye.